It's a Saturday afternoon after a major sports win. If you live in Auburn, you're probably aware of the tradition of rolling Toomer's Oaks. What you probably don't know is the story of the oaks you're rolling. Let's head over to the Donald E. Davis Arboretum to find out a little bit more about Auburn's collection of oaks.
It's great to have tree-based traditions, and I love the attention it brings and the way it attaches oaks to Auburn's identity. But I think it would be also fantastic if the people in the Auburn family realized that Alabama has a more diverse oak community than anywhere else in the country. One of 38 original trees left in the Arboretum. So it's been growing for over 150 years, since long before we thought of having an Arboretum at this site. It's one of 4 species that's native to this location. This is a post oak. We also have the white oak, Quercus alba. This is Quercus stellata. We have the southern red oak and water oaks that grow here naturally. And there's also a naturally occurring hybrid between the post oak and the white oak called Fernose oak. And so it's not a species, it is a 5th type of oak native to the Arboretum. And oaks have been proven to be one of the most valuable parts of the forest ecology in eastern U.S. There have been records of hundreds and hundreds of species of moths and butterflies whose larvae depend on oak foliage. There are many species of oaks in the state, and those species can be divided up within the genus into 2 different subgenera, and those are basically going to be your white oaks and your red oaks. And so a white oak typically has a lobed leaf, and the lobes are rounded, and a red oak typically also has a lobed leaf, but the lobes have bristle tips. White oaks often have white bark, as you can see on this large individual here. And the further you go up on the tree, the more it tends to be peeling and more visibly a white oak. But even less like what you might expect to find are oaks with very tiny leaves. And so this is a myrtle oak, and in addition to having these small leaves, we see that it's in full bloom right now. And we don't often think of oaks as flowering, but the whole tree here has these pendulous catkins that release male pollen. And then in the leaf axils, we'll have the female flowers that receive the pollen and develop into acorns. Also, in this dwarf chinkapin oak. And so you can see again the shallow lobing of this essentially a toothed margin. When you step back and look at the tree, it has the character of an average tree. Single stem, basal flare, more than half the size of the tree in the canopy. And so essentially a large tree and a small body. But another neat piece of Alabama's oak biodiversity. Let's go to the coastal dunes. The coastal plains of South Alabama are known to have deep sandy soils across much of its territories. And this oak is a denizen of those sandy habitats. This is the turkey oak. We can tell that it's a red oak because of the bristle tips on the leaves. And one characteristic that allows you to recognize this species is that it tends to hold its leaves in a variety of orientations. Most plants are going to orient the surface of their leaf towards the sun, and these have adapted a way to minimize exposure to the sun and drying effects by having multiple angles to their leaves. And so the turkey oak is one we essentially had to build a habitat just to be able to include this in the collection. Before we brought in all the sand, we were not having success growing them. We're standing here with two of the rarest oaks that occur on the coastal plain in the southeastern United States. We have the Oglethorpe oak and the Arkansas oak, and both of these are trees that the Arboretum has been involved in specific conservation grants with to go out, collect acorns in the wild in Alabama, and then distribute those to other public gardens and arboreta across the country.
In stark contrast to first glance, the Davis Arboretum is much more than a peaceful walk through beautiful foliage. It is significant through its large collection of unique oak trees and the strides it takes towards the conservation of endangered oak trees.
Alabama is home to a huge tree diversity, and the oaks are the most diverse group of trees in there. And we have more oaks in Alabama than there are species of trees in some other states. And so they've offered me a chance over the last 19 years to get to know all the different places across the state of Alabama, where they grow, how they grow, finding out that some are threatened more than others. Some are a lot more variable and hard to recognize than others. And just the challenge of hunting them down as a collector and building the collection. We're still one species away after 10 years of razor focus just on the oaks. 19 years of working with them has been great, but then to become a climbing arborist and learn how to work in the canopy to ensure the ones that we have collected stay the most structurally stable they can, and that the people walking underneath them are safe, is a whole nother layer to add onto it. And there's so many different aspects, whether it's the ecological value or the conservation risk or the maintenance in the garden, that just keep them interesting every day.
So next time, when you're rolling an oak near Toomer's Corner or taking a walk through the Arboretum, remember that the oaks are much more than just a football tradition.